Okay, I don't know if you guys heard that. That automated person, they're speaking kind of loud, but the recording has started. So this meeting has been called See If I Can Answer Some Questions. Joe and CNQ reached out to me about using the scientific method to counter racism. So I hope that I can answer you guys' questions. And if there's some additional interest after this meeting, then I'll set up a Zoom call or Skype or something to kind of walk you guys through what's on the website, and you can take it from there. Okay, any questions?
Sounds good. My first question is, what is the scientific method?
Yeah, no one really knows. No one really knows. If you happen to Google that, you know, the explanation will seem kind of vague. There are some components to it, but no one will claim to have, quote unquote, created this thing called the scientific method. But it is a set of rules or principles by which one can confirm and certify that knowledge has taken place, or as Mr. Fuller calls it, that a person has understanding of what they see when they're looking at it.
This call is being recorded. This call is being recorded.
Wow, that was a quick meeting.
Sorry, I was making sure you weren't still talking. I thought I dropped off.
Oh, okay.
I want to repeat that back. They said the scientific method is a set of rules that certify somebody has reached an understanding of what they're looking at.
It's a way of understanding something. There are many ways to understand something. This is a way that scientists use to understand something, to record some observable phenomena, why they think that phenomena is happening, and to run tests to see if why they think the phenomena is happening is really true. Because it may not be true. It may be happening for a different reason.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's
Hello?
a very focused. Yes, it's very focused and some people might say tedious way of running scientific experiments, recording the data, analyzing the data in order to get an understanding of whatever that observable phenomena is. Now, there's another aspect to it where you can go about the process of solving problems. We won't get into that today because that's an added unique feature, if you will, of the scientific method. So that is a little bit more in depth. So let's just deal with what we have for today, and that's the observable phenomena, the hypothesis, or the why someone thinks that phenomena is happening. In scientific terms, that's referred to as the hypothesis. There's the experimentation, and there is the expected outcome before you reach a scientific conclusion. So it's quite different from how you hear. Using the scientific method to counter racism is quite different than what you may hear people doing on a day-to-day basis. A lot of people are just freestyling. You know, they're just asking questions, and asking questions is a good thing. They're freestyling, and we'll wind up asking so many questions that we won't remember half the answers, you know, or even 25% of the questions, and we'll have nothing written down. So part of the scientific method, part of running counter-racism science experiments is the documentation part. You got to have that. Any other questions?
I have a question. Yeah, I have a question. So I really would like a more like I guess elaborate rundown of each aspect of it, like the observed phenomenon. But I guess the question right now I have, as far as the writing things down, do it necessarily have to be written down, or could it just be like, can you record instead of writing, or do you have to do both? Or no, does it matter?
So if you go to the Counter-Racism Work Study Project, the short answer to your question is it's okay. So the short answer to your question is it's preferable to do both. There's magic, if you will, in writing. I don't know why that is. I've asked Mr. Fuller about that, and he agrees that it's there, but he doesn't know why it is. So, click on Counter-Racism Science Project, and under that you can click on. Let's see, let me get a good.
I see the
So
welcome to
under
the
that, click on
Science Project.
Yeah, I've been having those for years. I kind of fell off there for a few years, but I'm picking that back up. Under the Counter-Racism Work Study Project Forum Index, there's a Counter-Racism Science Project Forum. Okay. Under that, there's a link that says Let's Begin, Forum Guidelines and Standards. Right? And that basically lays out an explanation for each of those that I explained, you know, the observed phenomena, the hypothesis, experimentation, et cetera, et cetera. And there's also a link in that post that says scientific process.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
It doesn't tell you a whole lot. Okay.
Well, I was listening to
Davis.
Welcome to the call. Who just joined?
This is
that
Davis.
Kwaku? Stevens. Welcome to the
Stevens.
call.
Thank you. Thank you for having this.
Oh, no problem, sir. I'm in the process of answering some questions about the scientific method in relation to counter-racism. So, Kwaku, I thought I heard you in the background. Your voice is kind of faint.
Can I be heard?
Are you there, sir?
Sorry?
Yes, sir. Your volume's kind of low. Yeah.
Me. I'm a little bit confused here. Are you speaking to me? I got on just before the last person. I'm Cholo Rev, and nice to hear all of you there.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome.
Well, I guess I'll just jump in now, if you don't mind. I like it. I
Not at all, sir.
Yeah, I like it. I like that you put it all down there so that someone can actually look at it and study that, and I think it's very useful. I don't see there's nothing terribly wrong about it. I mean, it's a scientific method, right?
Right.
I think it's valid. I think it's
and I would encourage. I would encourage anyone who's interested in the scientific method to do additional research, and so that they can become more knowledgeable in what it is, how it works, and what the purpose of it is.
Yeah. If I can add something now at this point, because I have been kind of thinking about this in terms of the calls that have been that people have been doing on Twitter, the Twitter Spaces, and I mean, there are a lot of great ideas in philosophy that I just get this feeling like Neely Fuller, when he wrote the book, he just kind of intuitively absorbed everything around him. And there's all these ideas that are academically already been put out, right? These are ideas that people have been thinking about in the last, 50 years and so. And one of them is just the idea that you were talking about the other day about concepts, right? That we need to be building concepts, right? So going to your scientific method, definitely, let's create concepts and use the scientific method to prove them, right?
Right. And that's the whole idea. So when the work study project started out, it was just a discussion board. I mean, it was wild, wild west. There were white people that were coming on there. I think C.o.w.s was around at that time, posting big flashing pictures, and it was crazy. So as I began to evolve, I evolved the WSP, the Work Study Project, along with myself. I think one of the experiments I have listed there is, once the WSP evolved, once the discussion board evolved into the WSP, that there wouldn't be any white people posting on it, and very few non-white people would post on it. And that has been true.
Did you say WXP?
Yeah, work study project. So this forum is called. I put this forum together back in 2003, I think it was, and there was a lady that used to post on it. Back then, it was just a discussion board. There was a lady that used to post on it that actually made the forum look like the rest of the website for free. Can you imagine that?
Oh, you're talking about the bulletin board.
Wow.
I'm sorry?
You're talking about the bulletin board?
What bulletin board?
The work study, where you click on work study and you have this...
Yes.
Like a forum. The forum. They used to be called bulletin boards, but okay, yeah, forum. Okay,
yeah,
I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're dating yourself.
Yeah, I know. I'm old. No problem, man. But you see, that's the thing. If we don't have a little bit of age, it's very hard to take this stuff seriously, right? You think it's a joke, but in fact, it very much is science. I believe it.
Right. Absolutely. So the white people who practice racism, white supremacy, they mix their work and their fun together. Their work becomes their fun. we haven't caught on to that as a concept yet when it comes to counter-racism. But yes, it should be the same for us.
If I may ask a question, a comment and a question, I guess, or a statement and a question. For me, if I am conducting counter-racist science, it has become fun, but not in the sense that, I'm making a white person squirm or so. But learning how to make adjustments, how to always circle back to the logic. So in a way, it is fun as such. It's not. I approach it like I would approach work. If I'm an over-the-road driver, and if I approach it like, here I got to do this load and everything, but I find myself actually enjoying the drive, enjoying different challenges, encountering people, and when I inevitably run across the racist, to be able to maybe not be so confused. So the question part is let's say having fun or getting an enjoyment a part of counter-racism, or what indication is it of counter-racism, or is it a part of counter-racism? And that's my question.
Could you repeat the question, please, sir?
Well, is counter-racism science, the practice of it, is it an indication, fun, quote, unquote, enjoyment? Is that an indication of counter-racism, a result of, or and I'm thinking even again, is it appropriate, or in what way, when it was mentioned about fun as relates to counter-racism?
It should be, but it should be fun for the people who are practicing it. One of the drawbacks of counter-racism is that you have to swallow a lot of red pills. Yeah, so, you'll have to develop.
Meaning?
Meaning? There's a lot of things that you're going to find. Yeah, there's a lot of things that you're going to find out about black people and our condition that you're not going to like. And I have seen people in the process of practicing counter-racism that there's so many things about black people that they find out that they don't like, that drives them away from counter-racism altogether. Yeah. And so you have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Now, once you do that, you're almost to the top of the hill. The objective is to get over that hill. It's not going to be fun until you're able to get over that hill. Until everything is downhill. But getting to the top of that hill and getting over it, not everybody can do that, because we're impacted by so many things on a day-to-day basis under this system. Being subject to this system There are just so many things that, as black people say, we have to deal with, you know. And adding counter racism to that becomes a distraction for a lot of people. So you can't expect a lot of black people to even partake in countering racism. I mean, you'll begin to see, if you studied Neely Fuller's work or Dr. Wells's work for any length of time, really study the words, you'll begin to see the difference in how they use words and how the majority black population use words. Now, once you actually get into using some of those counter-racist terms, counter-racist words or terms, then you'll begin to see that in yourself. You'll begin to think differently about phenomena, any observable phenomena. You'll begin to think differently about it. And that's by design, right? So when you add on top of that, to use their works, Mr. Fuller and Dr. Wellsing, in a scientific manner, then you'll begin to see how even people who are practicing counter-racism are making mistakes, that they don't know that they're making those mistakes.
If I can jump in for a minute, have you?
At any time, sir. This is an open forum, roundtable discussion.
I like what you're saying about word and speech. I think what I've discovered lately is with everybody on Twitter doing Twitter Spaces, and it's just I'm listening, I'm hearing this language that's developing, right? And this kind of new language, right? And when I say language, because I don't really know how to really say any other word, but a speech kind of pattern where it's very, very effective. And I can immediately point out who's actually reading the code and who's actually speaking the code, and like the compensatory code, and not some other code that's now using the word code for some other things. But personally, I find that if you use that language like Gusty and like Salt does it very well, and Smoking and all those people in that group, they have a very good way of kind of always keeping on, you could say, on code or on that kind of use of the language. And it's very, very effective. Mm-hmm. And one of the ones that I've discovered, I guess at this point, when you just keep working and working in this, it's just, if you can go through your day without making any declarations or statements, sorry, I meant to say statements, it's probably one of the best things that you can do for yourself. Like I've been trying not to say to make too many statements and just stay in the question lane, just to see as an experiment how far I can get. And I think it's actually very valid. Yeah. Another one that I tweeted about yesterday, just one more thing, is that is the use of slowing down the conversation. And I got interested in this because someone put up a post about these about psychopaths, and I was listening to the audio on the psychopath on this book that they quoted. And psychopaths, when they hear terms and words, they don't feel. And I've always had that feeling about people classified as white, and they're always looking into experiments about empathy and about feeling and all this. And I very much agree with Urugu. I mean, I think that's part of it, but that's a kind of a bias, you could say, of mine. But in any case, the point is that if you accept that those hypotheses about white people, then slowing down is definitely a way of them, I theorize, to connect the words and the feelings. Right? Yeah. So just wanted to throw that in there. This language part of the code.
If I may, I found the use of pronouns can make a difference. Rather say, you know what I mean, or when you. I say, I'll speak in the first person. Sometimes I am, or this is what makes me. That is a thing. And believe it or not, one of the persons you mentioned about a Twitter space, and it was short, but it opened for me a whole lot of thought about what is considered funny in the system of white supremacy. Now, I don't know if anyone's seen the old Warner Brothers Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and Elmer Fudd cartoon where they use duck season, rabbit season, duck season, that kind of thing. And one of the ones, where Daffy realized, he said, well, where did this go off the rails? And he was saying, oh, pronoun trouble. I found that, as you were stating, that can be a big, big difference in describing when I use it either in the first person or in the indefinite, instead of like we or us or them, or when I use it in the first person, or it's as simple as a pronoun. Both of when you mentioned about words, I found that to be really effective and useful. And I don't know if anyone else has as well.
Yeah, I was intrigued. I heard that comment the other day, and it's funny because I was listening to these people that do that read body language and stuff, and they also mentioned some book, and I'm going to find it and share it with you guys on Twitter, some book that talks about pronouns in terms of body language and body expression. And so, I was intrigued. I was going to ask somebody about that. And so give me an example like that is really revealing about using the word, or the use of pronouns, and being keen on that.
One time I was speaking to a neighbor, and I was referring to myself pre-code, and I was referring to his behavior. But what I said is, many of us are damaged and don't even know that we're damaged. So I left it at that. And so it wasn't a thing where he took it as an affront or anything else. He did listen, at least he appeared to hear what I said, and that was that. So I was able to transmit, hopefully, something constructive and not cause conflict. That was an example.
Right. So being very keen on the use, or on different uses or different ways of expressing, like the subject or the object of what you're talking about. So not to be too accusatory, I guess. Is it probably like what you're saying, maybe, or one example of that?
Yeah, I might say something in an indefinite, meaning that anybody, it could be anybody, or I'll use it in the first person.
Okay.
That's what I mean. I said, man, and this is maybe not this specific. Boy, it's just really raining outside. Or this is what I often do. Say it with a straight face, or I'm gonna jump around a little bit. Someone will say, well, they're trying to solve a problem or get to a solution. And I'll say, they'll say, oh, you're fine. Oh, you're fine. And I'll say, oh, thanks for the compliment. And then they'll either keep on doing what they say, and every so often they'll catch it. They'll say, oh, okay. Okay. I say, I'll say thank you for the compliment, and they'll catch it. They'll say, oh, okay, they'll laugh or giggle or something. Or I say, if it's nice out, or if it was cool and everything, or if it's gotten really chilly. I say, oh, you did a good job, turning the thermostat up. And they're like, huh? What? Sometimes they'll say something. Many times they won't, but they will catch it. And it'll ginger a smile or something. Or the idea is being to draw whoever it is I'm speaking with in to see if I'm paying attention and or if they're paying attention. If I made sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. I think
in a common kind of a type thing. Yeah. Or if it's raining, I said, man, you left the lawn sprinkler on again.
You're talking about.
And then they may or may not catch it.
You're talking about using pronouns?
What's that?
I said you were talking about using pronouns. I'm just asking for clarification.
Yeah.
Oh, I said. Oh, okay. Did you? I was wondering if you heard the other things that I used, expressions.
Oh yeah, I did.
Yes,
Oh,
I did.
Well, what is your question in terms of pronouns?
My definition?
He was asking if you were talking about using pronouns. I was wondering the same thing because it sounded like you were, I think Cholo asked you to give an example of how you use pronouns. And then I was listening for the examples, but I kind of got lost because you were talking about a number of things that I don't know. What was the pronoun? Like when you said something about it.
Yes, thank you. I will use it. Yeah. No, that was using other examples and the purpose of it. But to answer directly, I would use pronouns in the first person, or I would use the indefinite, not saying that, oh, you're such a dunderhead, or I would say something like, it seems like there's a mistake here, and I wouldn't use anything to indicate them or myself, but point to what the problem might be.
Okay. I see what you're saying now.
Yes, and I went further on to use other examples to find out or try to gauge at what point are they paying attention or am I paying attention, where I need to listen more keenly or I'm trying to get the person to help me solve the problem and to get their cooperation to listen more keenly. And I use that in relation to being able to have fun. That's why I said, like, if it's raining out, I say, oh, you left the lawn sprinkler on again. And if they're paying attention or I'm watching them while they're paying attention or if they're paying attention.
So you're kind
or
of running
they
a
ask,
test.
what do you mean?
You're just running a test to see if they're paying attention. It's like it's raining outside. You say, oh, you left the sprinkler on. And it's like, oh,
the lawn sprinkler, yes. Oh, right. And I say it with a straight face, especially if I'm speaking with a white person. But or yes. So
I like what you're doing. I mean, I think the point here is, part of the code too, of the compensatory code, and is to be courteous, right? To be friendly and courteous and polite, right? Not to be antagonistic and confrontational, right? And if those are things that you can do to kind of lower the level, or like, that's not a good expression, but to kind of create that rapport, then yes, definitely. Yeah.
Well, yes, and
I was saying I had a question for C.O. when you're done. When you get done.
Sorry?
When you're done, I'll have the question. When you're done.
I'm listening.
I can go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Well, I'm not. I'm listening
Okay.
for the question. Yes. Right. Yeah.
No, but for CR, I had a question. So if you want to continue, Peter, I'll wait till you're done. Hello?
I think he's done.
Oh, okay. So my question was, before I make a question, I have a statement, which is, I have wrote it down, that I basically, I really don't want to be like something like you were saying before or earlier about, just having a bunch of questions for white people and like nothing written down, just, question after question, which is all well and good. But for me, I feel like I need a purpose for doing it. I just don't want to just be doing it just to be doing it. I would like to have a result or a reason why I'm doing it. And I guess I'm kind of confused. And basically, I guess my question is what is the result I should be looking for when I'm questioning white people? I guess that's the question.
Can I answer that?
I had that.
Oh, sorry.
I'm really want Fiona to answer it. Is it okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Anybody can answer it, but since I'll go ahead and give you my answer. Then other people can give you their answer. All right.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind listening to other people's answers either. I don't want to reject them.
So that's a question I asked myself, right, when I first got into it. And you might see some of that on the work study project as well. I mean, there were like a handful of us, and we had about 5 or 6 questions. And we had discussed it amongst ourselves and talked about if the person answers like this, this is really what they're talking about, on and on and on and on, And came across a white person who, because that's who we were asking the questions to, came across a white person that already knew those sequential questions. So they already knew what was coming, and they already had the answers ready. And I asked a question, and they responded, and then they said, okay, I know what the next question is this. And I said, what the hell? And I had to sit back in my chair, and I thought about that. It's like, what am I doing here? And what is the result of what I'm doing here? And I mean, true enough, anything that you say and anything that you do in your efforts to work against the system of racism, white supremacy, is probably working against the system of racism, white supremacy. And I say probably because there's some things that some people say and do where they think it's working against the system, but it's not. I had a black female who I was talking to who was dating a white man and said that she was working against the system. You see, so that's an example of one of the things that, some things that people say and do, they think is working against the system, and they ain't working against it at all. And so, but probably most things that you say and do, if you study Mr. Fuller's work or Dr. Welson's work, and you're patterning your behavior after that, most of the things that you say and do is probably working against the system. But the question for me came, okay, so what do you understand about what's happening right now? What do you understand about what's happening right now? Sure, you're working against the system, but you can't, and these are the thoughts that I have for myself. You can't keep mimicking Mr. Fuller and Dr. W.s. You can't keep doing that, because I'm talking to myself when I was saying these things, in my mind, because every time you need an answer, you're going to have to go back to Mr. Fuller or Dr. W.s. So you need to come up with a way where you can develop code, counter-racist code, all on your own. And I talked to Fuller about that. And Fuller told me, he said, I keep saying it, but people don't seem to understand it. Mr. Fuller said, I keep telling people follow the logic, but they don't seem to understand that. He said, when you follow the logic, you'll be able to produce counter-racist code. See, Dr. Wilson has passed, and although I hope Mr. Fuller will be around for the next 50 years, I doubt that will happen, as he's in his 90s right now. So, and when I was talking to him, he was already in his 70s. So I had to come up with a way of developing focus in my discussions, with white people and with some non-white people. And something led me to the scientific method in order to do that. Now, it's like raising a child. It's a lot of work initially. It's a lot of work to write things down, and you'll be in a conversation trying not to freestyle, right? But it's a question that you want to ask. And so you'll ask the question, you say, okay, well, later I'm going to write a counter-racism science experiment just based on this question, this one question. And you'll go back and you write that, and the situation will come again and again and again. So the inevitability for me, probably not for anybody else, but the inevitability for me is to be able to have a counter-racism science experiment for everything that I'm saying to a white person. And it will be many, many, many counter-racism science experiments. It won't just be one. It'll be many of them. And over the years, I've done that. And so I found that over 80% of the time, I'm not only, when I do that, I'm not only saying and doing something against the system, but I have focus on what I expect to get out of it, and I have an understanding of what I am looking at right then. Now, it takes some time to get there. I'm talking about you, where you have all of these different counter-racism science experiments in your head that you're running. It's not just, the next logical question. And there's nothing wrong with asking the next logical question. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing incorrect about that at all. I had to convince myself that there was nothing incorrect about it. Right? But running an experiment using the scientific method is a little bit different focus. It's a little bit different focus. So I have these lab books with all these experiments and all this data, so the plan is to pass them on to my daughter at some point. And she's agreed to pass them on to her offspring. And a lot of that stuff that's in these books are not on the website. So the work study project is just a way that if someone's interested in countering the system of racism, white supremacy, using the scientific method, that they can post their experiments there if they want to. They don't have to. They can put them in lab books, like, I'm doing the same thing. I have some of them posted on the WSP, but a very small percentage. But if they want to, they can post them there. They can talk with other non-white people who are in the process of replacing the system of racism, white supremacy with a system of justice using the scientific method. Or there's a forum there. It's just for questions and answers. So,
could you give an example, Mr. Williams, of a problem that you or phenomenon that you observed that you used the scientific method for?
Oh yeah, there's some examples on the work study project. Lots of them. I've written some, and other people have written some. Somebody wrote one about the term anti-racism. Thoughts precede feelings. I wrote that one. When someone receives the response, I don't think of them as black, or I don't see color, Josh wrote that one. There are lots of them out there.
Okay. So like right now, recently, I noticed over the years a pattern in where the racist white supremacists toss terms and words out there through the media that people just pick up and start using. Like the latest one seems to be this the Great Replacement term. Mm-hmm. So if I wanted to this is where, because I remember when I first saw some of the stuff that you posted before, and I wanted to enter the counter racist science project, but I just had it seemed like I had difficulty trying to apply the scientific method to what I was observing. So like if I observe these words these terms being tossed around. So if I say, okay, so the problem I see is that they toss this term out there called the Great Replacement. Then I'm looking. I got the layout here, and I see. So it says, what is your goal? What idea are you trying to test? What is the scientific question you're trying to answer? Okay, so
let me help you out.
I appreciate it.
Okay, so, no worries. So you've observed that these terms are being thrown out or used on air or in magazines or whatever the case may be, right? Such as the term Great Replacement. So that would be your observed phenomena, right? That's your observed phenomena. And you can write it out however you want to write it out. That's between you and whomever or whatever is inside of you, that's motivating you to write it. Yeah. This is all about the individual. Counter-racism science is all about the individual. That's that magic, that Mr. Fuller talks about when it comes putting pen to paper. So that's your observed phenomena. Now, your hypothesis is, why do you think that's happening?
Mm.
And you can write that out any way you want to. Then you write out your experiment, because your experiment has to test your hypotheses. It doesn't test the observed phenomena. It tests your hypotheses to see if that's true. And it takes some thought. When you're first getting started, it takes some thought. Because as you begin to run that experiment, you have to be truthful with yourself as to whether or not you're really testing that hypothesis. If you're not truthful with yourself, it ain't never going to work. It ain't never going to work. You'll get some results and say, oh, well, yeah, that looks right, when it's really not. So the hardest part is going to be being truthful with yourself.
Okay. So if my hypothesis was, I believe, or I suspect that they're tossing it, they're throwing the term out there to confuse victims of white supremacy about what racism is.
Okay.
How would I go about running an experiment? Oh, I think I would run the experiment by questioning other victims about what they. No, see, I don't want to. I want to.
Can I just jump in here for a minute to help you out? What's your name? Or what's your handle?
This is Dr. C.o.w.s. Go ahead.
Oh, C.o.w.s. I didn't. Your voice sounds a little bit higher on this line. Listen, I think maybe you're asking questions. Does it feel like it's a weak thing for you? Just curious. I'm just
asking questions. No, a weak thing, like as opposed to being strong.
Yeah, like do you find asking questions, like, is it aversive to you? Is there something bothersome about it, or?
No, not at all.
Do you feel that you're offending or like maybe pushing on somebody, maybe, or?
Nope.
Oh, okay. So what is it that you feel like about questions that does it?
Well, I'm in this situation here. I'm not feeling anything really. I'm attempting to use logic. By using what I'm trying to do is figure out how to use the scientific method. I'm trying to figure out how to use the scientific method to confirm whether or not the observed phenomenon that I see is true or not.
Right.
Yeah, so then, that's it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to.
You would need to find some evidence, right? And you would start having to ask yourself a whole bunch of questions, right?
Well, I don't know if I want to ask myself a whole bunch of questions. I think I want to. I mean, I definitely want to ask myself some questions to work out the process of using the scientific method. Right. So I guess I'm just sitting here looking at the whole layout for using the scientific method. And so bottom line is I'm trying to use the scientific method. That's it.
Well, those are good questions. I mean, I think it'll come to you. I think the more you ask, the more you kind of, let some time go by and you just kind of think about it more and more, it'll be more and more clear and you'll memorize it more. And I mean, I think it's something that you do every day, or I think it would be something that we do every day, right, CR? Like, we're always kind of guessing stuff and then going to find out whether it's true or not, and then collecting the evidence and then verifying it and then confirming it and seeing if it happens actually every day and it's, rock solid. And then we say, yeah, for sure, that's the problem, right? And then we move on to the next question, right? Yeah. Can I give you something?
No, please proceed, please.
Oh yeah, sure. I was just going to say, Sin-Q, and one of the things that I find about questions is that it's very elusive. Like, you go to grab it, right? The whole idea of asking questions, and then you're just like, man, why am I doing this? This is dumb. Like, I'm walking around like an idiot, like the Riddler, asking questions and stuff. And the thing is this is nothing new, right? Socrates talked about this, right? He set this up too, thousands of years ago. And if you look at Egyptian sayings, they also have, the key to the universe is asking the right question, like really trying to find out what the right question is so that you can go and find that answer, right? But you have to really define the best question that you can to what you're really looking to answer, right? So this is nothing new. Another point that I want to talk about questions is it helps clarify for the person that you're talking to what they're thinking, right? They may not have even asked themselves the question. And all of a sudden you come out of the blue. Like the other day somebody was talking about La Patria, right? The flag or the country. And I'm like, well, what is that? What's the patria? What's the country? And they mocked me and they told me I was an idiot and go back to school. And I'm thinking, but you know what? I know that person that evening was really thinking about that question. What did I actually mean by, country and flag, right? So sometimes I think asking the question kind of maybe helps people to ask themselves, right? And then the other thing too about asking questions is that sometimes it puts you on the same side. It's no longer me against you, but it's now together we're on the same side looking at the problem and we're saying, okay, well, what is it that you're talking about here, right?
Yeah, so I
think viewpoint.
that what I'm looking at here, and you may not have heard this part when Mr. Williams mentioned it, right? But I believe I heard him say that. So it appears to me that using the scientific method is a step further than just asking questions. Right, because
oh yeah, of course.
Asking questions, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know how anyone else learned, but I learned that just growing up at an early age. In my household, my dad probably I want to say there was probably close to 1,000 books that we had in the house, like wall-to-wall books, like so much so that, people would come in the house and their mouths would be on the floor because they're like, wow, And I used to ask my dad, my attempted father, a lot of questions growing up. And as a child, being his young male offspring, he would always point to a book. He says, you see that book right up there at the top shelf right there? That'll answer everything you need to know. Pull that book down. Right? So early on, I learned to, look in books to try to find answers to my questions, because I learned that other people out there who probably had the same question or believed that they needed to put that information, in a book for other people who might come across the same question. They put it out there. So I kind of learned early on that. Then later on, working in the library, I was surrounded by more books, and I solved a lot of my problems by asking questions and going into the books and trying to find information. But like Mr. Williams said, I've also learned that some people, they ask questions and they'll produce answers to the questions without actually having the truth to stand behind the question. It's more like they ask a question, they answer a question with what they think, but not with what they know, right? And so it appears to me that this scientific method is a way to so if somebody asks a question, right, and they come up with an answer to that question, but the answer to the question is what they think and not what they know, then the answer is just the theory. The scientific method takes the theory, has you run an experiment on the theory so you can find out if the theory is correct or not. Is that the correct conclusion? Or
partly. So you can ask somebody a question and you suspect you know what the answer is going to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you ask the question, they answer the question in accordance with your suspicion. And you can walk away with that thinking that, yeah, that's true, when in fact it may not be true at all. Just because you expected that result doesn't mean that that result is true. So the scientific method is supposed to help you to understand what is true. But you got to be truthful with yourself. That is the sticky part. And a lot of people are not truthful with themselves. That's the sticky part. So let me further break down. So if you're on the website, click on the projects button. Let me know when you've done that.
Okay, yeah, I'm there.
Okay, so put your mouse indicator, hover it over that projects button.
Right.
And you should see like a drop-down menu. Okay. Under science project competition, go to the detailed scientific method.
Yeah, that's what I have up right now.
Okay, good. Then you'll get more information about what each part means. What each part of the scientific method means.
Yeah. I think where I keep getting stuck at is when it comes to trying to do the procedure, right? Like I if we were using the great replacement example that we were just using, right? And then the hypothesis is okay. I see right now. I didn't. Okay, I thought I wrote down exactly what I wanted to know, but so my hypothesis was that the race of white supremacists are tossing this term, the great replacement, out to confuse the victims.
Right. Now that's an overall hypothesis, right? But I mean, you can even ask a question to that, right? So why are they trying to confuse the victims? Right. So I mean, you can keep going asking questions, but you want to have something very specific and very focused that you're trying to test.
Okay.
Not something just overall. It's like,
terms,
they're using great replacement. Yeah, they're using great replacement in order to maintain the system of racism and white supremacy. Okay, so
I already know the answer to that. There's no reason for me to.
Right. So,
that's what I was discovering later on. I started thinking, I was like, well, I'm back to questioning victims instead of questioning white people. So
right.
Let's put that around. Okay.
So there's no replacement for you putting pen to paper. There's no replacement for that. I mean, you can sit in class.
Okay.
See, this is the reason schools are structured the way that they are. You're going to have to write something. There's no class you go to and somebody's just standing up there explaining something to you and you automatically pass. No, there's a certain magic, if you will, for you thinking something and it's going through your body, down your arm, into your hand, and you writing it. Something happens when you do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Can I throw in here? Can I throw in here a crazy idea just to kind of expand our vision a little bit? And it's a problem that I have a lot with this kind of very structured thinking, and I think I want to tie it to melanin, and I want to tie it to non-white people, and I want to maybe if you want to discuss them later, maybe some other time, but I think one of the properties of melanin, and they've said, is that it integrates information like at light speed, right? That's why people of color are able to dance better, are able to move faster, are able to coordinate faster, are able to speak faster, are able to say poetry better. We're able, apparently, through melanin, we're able to put information together, right? So part of that is our intuition, right? Our gut feeling, right? So you'll always hear this, right? Manibani talked about this in Uruguay, right? Like the European civilization is always analyzing stuff, breaking it down to 100 parts, the scientific method, breaking it down, And I think part of me personally is trying to get away from that. It's also valid, I would say, Dr. Singh Q, and I would say, CR is like, get an intuition of something, right? Don't even doubt it, and then apply the scientific method in your own time. But go with that intuition and see if it works for you, right? A lot of people hate the word intuition, but I personally find that intuition is like the warp speed of the scientific methods. Just want to throw that in there. Mm-hmm.
So you're essentially saying
Very good.
Well, always focusing on asking questions is not constructive. But when using the scientific method to use, your
intuition, your gut feeling, which I guess is your gut feeling. So how you would normally react, but you're saying that to apply the scientific method to that. I hope that was clear.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. But what I'm saying is gain confidence, like use your intuition, but make sure that you've honed it so that you have good or great confidence in it, that you know what you're thinking, you're feeling. You know what I mean? Like not just any feeling, but a feeling or that you can really trust. Yeah. I feel like I'm confusing
May I
more, but
speak?
It's important for me. I don't know.
May I speak?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, just very briefly. Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Two things. The first one is very brief, and the second is an account. For me, I had to learn and beginning to unlearn what programming the system of racism, white supremacy has put in me. And part of that programming, let's say, is fear, and it's a matter of unlearning. But a big part of it, a large part of it, and hopefully I'm being truthful with myself, was fear. I was scared. My voice was shaking, and I kind of felt a little queasy, a little, and been in much more seemingly endangering situations where I should have been scared and wasn't even scared at all, But having that confrontation, oh man, it's a lot easier now. And I even think I see why Reverend King said what he said. He said, I fear no man. I fear no evil, because, he got to the point where it's like, no, all I could do is just kill me. So still, this is going to go on no matter what. What's the worst that could happen to me? As a matter of fact, I'm now more, to use the word, more free, more confident, more solid, let's say, than ever. But yeah, oh man, it's scary as I don't know what. And as a male, that's a thing that I would never want to. We got the bravado and we're tough and we play football and all this kind of stuff, and we're soldiers and we're tough, and but man, it's scary. Well, they use this term, old-fashioned term, shaking and quaking in my boots, But once a couple of things, assaults of the hill, so to speak. It's like, oh, okay, it's going to happen and everything else like that. I might get bumped, I might get bruised, but okay, I'm fine. I'm pretty much intact. I am intact. Okay, so and then it really didn't. It was more supposed. And I guess for me, it was realizing, oh, I'm going contrary to my programming. Oh, well, good. I don't need to be having this no way, So, the other part I was going to say very quickly was it's an account. I was in a grocery store, and so I was get some food to eat, trying to decide what I was going to fix. And getting some staples, one of them which is like artesian water. I love spring water rather than it. Otherwise, I just get some water out the tap. Excuse me. And usually I try to get gallons or so. And I went around to where they had the water section, and they were in bottles, cases of bottles or whatever, and there was a big hole. Because I guess, most of them had stopped out and they had replenished the stock. So I kind of was looking, and the white person came up to me and said, well, they got some more in the front. And, right away, I, suspicion being up, I said, oh, okay, thanks. Kind of like that. And right away I thought, it's like, oh, well, why? Like Fuller had said one time when this talk, well, why are you talking to me? And it hit me right away. It's like, hey, oh gosh, I have totally been off ever since I called myself walking into this store. Because if I would have observed, yeah, they were there as well. And for one, and then two, I was like, okay, I've been surveilled and not observed who was surveilling me. And I was like, wow, I'm walking around like I'm in no danger, just like happy-go-lucky. And, that was kind of jolting, not entirely startling, but, it's like, okay, be ever vigilant, as they say, or as the expression has been out, or you go in the boxing ring, protect yourself at all times, So I made that account because I was like, there's so many levels just from that account. One, and I making observation, scientific method. Am I correctly observing? And then the behavior. Oh, yes, they're going to be very kind. Like many hunters will be kind to the deer. They'll give them deer corn and everything in August and September, because in October, November, I'm going to be blasting at yourself, with a good 30 out 30, and you know what I mean? So, yeah, so it's a thing to be positionally and situationally, as you said, your dad, CR2, as a military sense, and I understand that very well, to be positionally and situationally aware at all times. And that was one of the better scientific methods. And nothing happened to me, but yeah, everything did happen because my sense of security kind of just entirely collapsed. And my sense of, oh, well, I'm codified now, really made me look like an infant, just naked out there. I'm like, wow, what am I really doing? In every instance, to look out and observe, and like Dr. Francis Wilson said, we're in a war. And I'm acting like, oh, yeah, okay, well, yeah, there are people around with guns and stuff and bombs and whatnot, but, hey, no. So that was a very telling thing, and hopefully I told myself the truth with that, and it's appropriate to be very stinging, to be very pronounced in my mind, to feel that nakedness. So no, I don't need to feel that. I just need to be observant, and everything is like that. So I'll leave it at that. But thank you for that. Thank you for kind of reminding me. Not kind of reminding me, that was incorrect. For reminding me of to be ever vigilant, and that scientific method can be observed at all times, in all places. Because certainly white supremacy, racism is observed at all times, in all places.
The scientific method to me is sounding like problem solving.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Is it possible not to be using the scientific method? I mean, people are always observing phenomenon. Yeah, I guess that's my question. Is it possible not to be using the scientific method or not applying it?
Yes. Yeah, it's possible to do that. It's possible to just observe something and draw a conclusion right then based on what you've observed, and then observe something else and draw a conclusion on that, observe something else, draw a conclusion on that, without really trying to find out the reason that what you observed, the reason why you think it happened. Because people do that every day, all day long. You see stuff and say, oh, yeah, they just doing that because of this. And then they go to the next thing. But using a scientific method will slow you down. It'll slow you down. It'll make you think. You will have to do some thinking. And you will have to do some testing to see if what you think is true is actually true. It's going to force you to have to be truthful with yourself or put that thing down and business as usual. So it's not for everybody. I'm sorry, somebody say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, because it made me think. I'm flashing back to. I remember it was an assignment from my daughter, from her class, and if I remember correctly, it involved a scientific method with dice. So I think it also has to do with probability. So like even if you run the experiment and the first result you get, it's like you have to run the same experiment multiple times, right? To get the
right.
I remember now. Just thinking about what you just said made me think because I remember they told her assignment was to guess how many times the dice would like whatever. It was some number that she came up with, and she had to guess how many times that number would show up if she kept throwing the dice. So I don't know. I was just, it just made me think about that. But I'm seeing it now that you're also going to have to run the experiment more than one time.
Right. There is one that's on the WSP called "Are You a White Person?" And I didn't write that experiment. Someone else wrote it. And there are literally 19 pages, where different people just come in and just time after time after time run the experiment, and they post their data. Run the experiment, they post their data, just different people over the years. 19 pages worth. And at any time, somebody can go in. It won't be me, but somebody can go in and read all 19 pages. It won't be me doing that. And analyze that data. All the data is there for anybody to see it.
Yeah, that one right there, I remember that one. That one right there, I learned a lot from reading that information about that gave me a much more better understanding. When I read the part in the code that says a white person is a person who classifies himself as white and is accepted as white by other people who classify themselves as white, after looking at that experiment, the results of that experiment, I learned a lot more. I even understood, cause I remember the first time I had one of the first conversations I had with you was about I think it was something that you posted about a white person not having skin the color of a white crayon or a white piece of paper.
Right. And that's one of the experiments on there as well.
Yeah, before I got that information, though, it had never occurred to me. It was like my mind and what I was thinking a white person was, it cleared up some confusion about what a white person was for me because, after reading the results of those experiments, it helped me get a much more better understanding. I thought a white person was a European. I thought a white person was a Caucasian. I thought all these a Norwegian and all these different terms that I thought a white person was, that after going through, reading the results of those experiments, I realized that no, those are not white people. A white person can be one of those things, but one of those terms, but those terms don't make a white person.
Right. The people on this call right now can say we can all classify ourselves as green people, right? And we can all say that each other are green people. So essentially we have a call full of green people. But at some point, somebody's going to have to ask, well, what do we do as green people that nobody else does? Yeah, we're all green people, so how do we function as a result of being green people? It's all going to come down to doing, D-O, that functional part. So, yeah, that white, I remember when we ran that experiment with the crayons and whatnot. And I think I have video of that. At least one time where we were running it. Very eye-opening, Are there any other questions on the scientific method?
Yeah, I have another one. So as an experiment, it seems like you can use like questioning people, right? As an experiment, is there maybe other types of experiments you can run, or that doesn't involve only asking questions?
Yeah, you can post experiments about, without saying anything. You could just do something. So I remember helping Sabrina back in the day. She wanted to run an experiment, writing something on a T-shirt and getting on the subway to see what people's response was without asking anybody anything. Yeah. And I told her at the time, I said, I ain't going to put that T-shirt on. But I'll help you write that experiment. I was living in D.C. at the time. I said, you ain't putting that T-shirt on me getting on the subway in D.C. at nighttime. No, ma'am.
Right.
But, yeah. So you don't have to say anything. You could write an experiment of you actually, just doing something and write what the response is when you do it.
Oh, like the license plate, right? Didn't somebody do a license plate that said non-race on it?
That was me.
That was you. Okay. Yeah. I remember that.
I had one that said non-race, and I had one that said RWSWJ. I think I still got those license plates. When I moved from Virginia, of course, I had to get new plates, but and Texas at the time didn't have the 7-letter digit, only the 6. But yeah, I had both of those when I lived in when I lived in D.C. and one when I lived in Virginia, Arlington, Virginia. Yeah, so that's the long answer to your question. Yeah, that's the long answer to your question. No, you don't have to ask questions. You could just do something. But
so I have a question.
Even when you're doing something.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. Even when you're doing something, you still gonna have to tell yourself the truth about what the result is. There's no way around that. Okay. What is your question?
Yeah. So it's kind of two questions. I know you kind of answered this first question kind of already, but I'm gonna ask it kind of again. So like, what would be the main purpose of questioning white people? Like, what would be the purpose of doing that?
What would be the purpose for me doing it? Or just the overall purpose?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, overall purpose.
Oh, I don't have an answer to that.
Okay.
I don't have an answer to that. But the purpose for me doing it is I'm trying to find out some information. Yeah.
Okay.
But I can't tell you what anyone else's reason is.
Sir, why would you want to ask
so my
person?
Are you asking me or you asking
for me or Sivas?
Yeah, I'm asking you. Who you just asked? Why would someone ask somebody, a white person, or something? Well, why would you want to ask somebody, a white person, something? I'm throwing the question back to you. Just that's all. What's your answer? What's your question?
Are you asking me, Joe?
Yes,
Joe,
sir.
Yes. Joe talking.
Hey, Joe. Yes, exactly.
Okay. And you asking me, what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Why would you?
I'm asking you your same question. Mm-hmm.
Why would I want to question white people?
Yeah, why would you want to ask a white person something?
I don't know. I really don't know why I would want to question white people. That's what I'm asking others. Particularly, I ask y'all. But I mean, if anybody else want to answer, that's fine too. Answer that question why they would answer. But I'm trying to understand what would be my whole purpose of doing that. But more, I'm hoping me using this method will help me get an answer to that question, why I would question white people. I mean, I like what C.R.'s answer was to get information. I mean, that sounds logical to me. But, C.R., I do have another question. Like, say if I had another question, say if I'm using questions for experiment. So say I have this question of are all white people are white people ignorant? Are white people ignorant about racism or not? Are white people not ignorant about racism? Let's say I said that was my phenomenon. I guess I will try to figure out hypothesis on why that is. I guess I would guess.
Yeah. That's what a hypothesis is.
So I would have to guess why I think that they don't.
So if the observed phenomena is that you suspect, say for example, I'm not saying that you should write this or even think about it beyond this meeting, but you suspect that white people are not ignorant about practicing racism and white supremacy, right?
Yeah.
You've observed that white people of all ages, this is an observation of all ages, practice racism and white supremacy. And let's say that your hypothesis is you suspect all white people practice racism and white supremacy. Okay, so how would you go about testing that? One way is you could ask white people. You could ask them. You could ask white people if white people practice racism, if all white people practice racism and white supremacy. Mm-hmm. You could ask non-white people. Mm-hmm. See? And your expected result, not your scientific conclusion, but your expected result would be that all white people practice racism and white supremacy. That's your observed phenomena is it seems as though all white people practice racism and white supremacy. Your expected result could be, I suspect that all white people practice racism and white supremacy. Then you have to run that experiment and run it and run it and run it and run it. And you probably never get a scientific conclusion. You'll probably die running it. You'll probably die running it. I mean, your offspring probably have to pick it up after you. Hey guys, if you're not on the mic, could you mute your mic?
Yeah, there's a lot of background noise.
Okay, I'm gonna have to start. I didn't want to have to do this, but I'm gonna have to mute some mics. All right, it seems like it's calmed down some. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you'd have to decide when enough data is enough data before you draw a scientific conclusion. Now, if you're testing whether or not all white people practice racism and white supremacy, I mean, you're gonna have to test a 1-month-old white person, a 101-year-old white person. I mean, you're going to have a broad range of test subjects.
Yeah.
White people in San Francisco,
You know what I
white
mean?
people in Houston.
Yeah.
White people.
Yeah. In Tokyo. I mean, yeah, that's why I say you'll probably die running that experiment, and somebody have to pick it up after you're gone and keep running it.
So you
So that's why I
suggest that the experiment should be as specific as possible?
That's why I said it. Yep. As specific as possible.
Can you ask white people questions in a coded manner? I mean, like.
I'm sorry.
While you're doing the experiments, are you? Can you ask questions in a coded manner? So maybe,
Sure you can.
I guess indirectly, to get information.
Sure you can. I mean, anybody can do that. People do it all the time.
Okay.
Why be indirect?
Say again, Saul?
Why be indirect?
Oh.
Well, for me, it's
I think that was yeah.
For me, I find that sometimes it's difficult for me to be direct when trying to ask questions. Not always, but sometimes.
Suggestion, that's where practice comes in.
I agree with that.
I would like to hear everyone's answer to why question white people, please.
For me, it would be.
I think I gave my answer. I think I gave my answer. I'll give it again if you want me to.
If you like, but I'm asking for everyone to answer the question if they can, please.
Okay.
To understand.
So my answer is.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Edwards.
No. You please.
I was going to say to understand more about the system and how it works. So I can stop the mistreatment that's happening for myself in that moment. That's my answer.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
My answer to the why question white people. So one can see for themselves what they're dealing with. So they can observe the enemy and so they can observe the enemy, learn from the enemy.
For me, yes, I was going to say, for me, is to determine, one, identity, and if there is an anomaly. In other words, a white person who would not practice mistreating people based on color. Thus far, I haven't. So, for me, I guess it's kind of an ongoing scientific experiment.
I would question white people. Well, I have, and I, still continue to question white people because it appears to me that they have a lot of knowledge on a lot of things. A lot of them have a lot of knowledge on, solving a lot of problems. So I think I'd, of course, be extremely specific about what I'm questioning them about. But, yeah, that's why I question white people.
I think I gave my answer already, but basically, I'm still trying to figure that whole question out, and hopefully, by doing the experiments, I can have a more understanding why I need to be questioning white people. Thank you.
Why question white people? Number one, to reveal truth. Number two, because white people don't want me to. They trained us not to ask questions, so that's my job to do the opposite, to unlearn what racist man or racist woman has taught me. Number three, to be the example, to help non-white people to get comfortable with asking white people questions. Number four, because all problems are solved with questions and answers. Number five, this is how I run my experiments.
Okay. Anybody else? Did everybody answer Salt's question?
Well, I guess I asked about the indirect question asking. I think it's logical that if you can ask directly, then you can also ask indirectly. But I guess when you're more indirect, you might need to explain yourself more and be prepared for questions.
Oh, I see.
Practicing
for
CR. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No. Practicing being direct. Go ahead.
So practicing direct, being more direct would probably get you to be more direct. At least for me, it would let me be more direct with my questioning. Probably if you're more direct with your questions, it probably gets you to your answers quicker. Less sidetracking.
Question for CR and for everyone in the room, starting with CR, how to get non-white people to be truthful with themselves, if possible.
Oh boy, that's a doozy, as the old people would say. I don't think you can force that on any individual non-white person. That's something they have to come into all on their own. People do it in different ways. Some people will have a dream, and decide to do it. Some people will do some thinking while they are awake and come to the conclusion that this is something that they should be doing. I don't think there's one specific way that'll work on all non-white people. I could be incorrect about that, but if there is, I haven't found it.
For me, I wouldn't want to make, quote unquote, any non-white person do anything, or white person for that matter, but especially non-white persons, black people. Reason being that is that actually another type of victimization. I mean, and where would it go? Could it be kind of like a Gang of Four, Mao Zedong thing? You're in a re-education camp, a Pol Pot kind of a type situation, or put them in a gulag, or what is that, the drop squad kind of a type thing? No, I wouldn't make anyone do so. And part of my guidance would be one that if I thought so, that's what I think. That's not true VGQ, because their method and their manner may very well work for them. And it may work for me or not. But as Fuller said, it's totally democratic. And as Dr. Wilson has said many, many times, whoever shall come will come. And she's recounted herself that it's obvious the colleagues see the logic, but it's only like after 20 years she said, "Oh, Francis, now I'm beginning to understand what you said." You say, so for me, no, I wouldn't want to make anyone, because that's a popular thing that's been happening on Twitter. We're going to go after them people here. We're going to do this and we're going to do that, and all you're doing is, in a sense, victim blaming, and in a sense, kind of strong arm someone who's already victimized, who might be more highly victimized than you. But as the universe works, the irony might be that that person whom I may deem to be, man, they ought to know they hooked up with a white dude, and like, that may be the very one to absolutely end this thing. Absolutely. Or to be the one to be the catalyst for that critical mass, as Dr. Wilson would speak of. So that's it. No, I wouldn't make them do anything. No. It's hard to watch.
Only because
they're flailing.
Only because the term "mate" was said 3 times, and I'm going to, just for clarity, I never said make. My question was how to get non-white people to be truthful with themselves, if possible.
Yeah, you're talking about grabbing the bull by the horns. That's with a lot of non-white people, you're going to have a fight on your hands. Does anyone else want to answer?
Yeah, I don't see that even possible.
Saul's question.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't see personally how that's possible. It's hard to get black people to even believe that there is a system. Even think, try to convince them that there's a system that exists. So trying to get another individual to do what you're asking, I just don't see how that's possible. I think each individual is going to have to come to their own conclusion, come to their own. They're going to have to do it on their own, basically. That's how I see it. So, yeah.
I've got the answer.
Another question.
Could probably put it on TikTok, like make a what do you call it? What do you call them damn thing? A skit of a black person being truthful to themselves, and try to make it fun looking, so it could be trendy. And I don't know.
Is that a serious answer to Salt's question?
Get out of my
Come
head,
on,
C.O.
guys, be serious. You got to be serious about this.
Oh, I was very serious. If you're talking about me, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was.
Whoever that was talking about TikTok.
Yeah, I was serious. I in my mind, I was just thinking about, when I think about movies and some of the roles that certain actors, I guess if we say of extremely skilled, qualified actor or whatever that they do the role so well that oftentimes black people imitate what they see. I mean, not just black people, but I'm saying I've seen that. I mean, I've witnessed black people portray roles in movies that did it so well. I wanted to be what I saw and attempted to do it. So no, I was serious.
Right. Okay. Is that Dr. CNQ talking?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else would like to answer?
That just goes to show how powerful the system of racism and white supremacy is. That answer right there. But good answer.
I got the answer,
Say again?
So you have to ask the right question at the right time in the right place. There you go.
Good answer.
I would have to ask questions. Why would I want to, again, get any non-white person to be truthful with themselves? Because the very posit of the question is the person has to get truthful with themselves. And how could I get to them to do that? Other than being an example, to do as I would do, well, they say doing me in a counter racist specific way. Yeah, that would be the manner with which it could be done. But I'm just saying the word even, make, get is implying for me that I am somehow exerting something over the non-black person, whereas in the question itself is saying to get truthful with themselves. It's part of the question. To become truthful, or I don't remember exactly the words, to become truthful with themselves. So that would be the answer, is that part in the question.
Good answer. I agree. Be the example.
Unfortunately, I got to split. So I'm just going to say goodbye. It's nice talking to you all. See you next time. Thank you, CR.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Bless. Thanks for participating.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good talk.
I was going to say, answering the first question, is I'm not really sure how to get someone to realize the truth. I guess that's my short answer. I don't want to ramble. Well, yeah, that's my short answer right now.
Good answer.
Well, I guess I've tried it a couple times, even with myself, on various members of my victim unit or attempted family, and it's and I haven't quite gotten anybody yet, but I think from my observations, I do believe when you talk to children or offspring, I should say, or no, children, they can be receptive. It seems a lot more receptive than the older they people get.
Oh yeah, because we're being dumbed down. We're being dumbed down on a daily basis. Program. I mean, when we first come out of the womb, when we are able to talk, I mean, we're asking so many questions. We want to know everything about everything. But the more we stay on this planet, the dumber we become.
Mm-hmm. I suspect the older we get, we develop the habit of lying to ourselves too, so it becomes even more easier as opposed to a child.
May I speak?
Can I add
one, Mr. Fuller?
Oh,
I'm sorry? Did somebody say something?
I think it was Cephas. Cephas, you can continue. I was going to say something, but go ahead, Ms. Cephas.
I didn't want to be interrupted. For my apologies for being rude.
No apologies, Cephas. You can continue if you're speaking. I'm sorry.
No, just that Fuller, when he was talking with Gus, I don't know if this is a fourth or fifth appearance, one of his earlier appearances when he was on the cows, he was kind of speaking about something I think very parallel to what we're talking about was that, well, why and I was just putting it in my words, why people do what they do, and he said largely habit. They've been doing it from their granddad and their granddad before them, and it's a habit, you know. That's one thing. And the other part of when I was younger, I climbed up a tree. It was a bit of showing off with me and my mom. And I gotten up to a part, you know, I was like, look at me. You know, I gotten up to the part and I looked down. I said, okay, we're getting ready to go have dinner now. And I looked down and my mom said, jump down. And I looked at it, like, wow, I'm kind of up here. She said, okay. And she turned away and walked across the street. So I jumped down, and, you know, that became my favorite tree to climb. You know, so I had to see it, you know. She couldn't, oh, baby, come on down now. And, you know, she could sit up there, and no, she turned around and walked away, and I figured it out, you know. So, yeah. I think that's how, not just my instance, but maybe a lot of persons, because I was very skeptical in the beginning, because who is this old guy? What are they talking about? And, you know, until I began to see it for myself. And I think it relates also, Salt, to what I had spoken of earlier about fear, especially being a male, to be really, really scared, but not wanting to be scared because we're male and we're bad and we're men and we, you know, But yeah, there's a lot of fear there, and that's a thing that some persons don't even want to confront. And yeah, so yeah, it's a lot to kind of get to that. And then some persons might be, and as you say, to be an example, And if it's not an example, I still have to, in the first person, Cephas has to do what it is and to learn as much as I can. So that's it.
Yeah, I suspect that is one of the biggest truths that I think a lot of black people need to face is the fear. Once I came to the conclusion that I was actually fearful of white people, it kind of helped me see a lot of other things that were devastatingly true.
That's a gateway emotion. Fear. A lot of the other emotions that you experience are rooted in fear. So once you get rid of that fear, somebody spoke about it earlier on the call, you begin to feel, freer and not stressed as much and things like that, because a lot of those other emotions that are rooted in fear go away with the fear.
Exactly. If you could remember my earlier videos, I came on with I had a bandana on my face and dark glasses. I was trying to hide my identity. I was lying to myself and telling myself that I was doing that to get people's attention. But I had a conversation with another attempted counter-racist, and after that conversation, I came to the conclusion. I said, you know what? I am doing this because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of white people knowing who I am, and I just thought about all these terrible things that was going to happen to me if I felt like I was going to lose clients, because a lot of my clients at my business were white, and I just went ahead and just took it off one day and just got on there. But then some of the other victims who worked with me tried to put pressure on me to just stop making videos because the fear was going to them, and they felt like I was going to, ruin the whole business. And it never did. Never did. There were a few white people who worked, as employees for us, who, saw the video and accused me of practicing racism, but it didn't stick. So, but yeah, it was very liberating.
I thought that was kind of cool with the bandana and the glasses. I enjoyed those videos. I got one of them on the Counter Racism Television Network.
Right, I seen it. That's how I discovered. That's how I found out about you. Because somebody told me that that my video was there, and I was like, what? And then I went there and I was like, gosh, it's a whole bunch. I just didn't, I hadn't realized that there was even other attempted counter racists out there. I just was just reading off the book and trying to put it on YouTube. I did think it was cool too, and I later on I thought it would have been better if I had planned it and made it more calculating, but
yeah.
when I realized the truth that I was bottom line, I was doing it out of fear. I was like, man, I gotta face this fear, And
that's no different than, the people in Afghanistan that's wearing a mask, ISIS wearing a mask, people in other parts of the world. I mean, white people when they go to take over Iraq, ain't none of them got no mask on.
Right.
None of them. Yeah, because they ain't afraid. Hey, we taking over this.
Exactly.
But that's us. That's our response to being mistreated based on color. That's us, man, all over the world.
What do you say? Knocking heads and taking names, huh?
Yes, sir. White people show up with a smile on their face, and two B-52 bombers in the air. Hey, we taking over this. So get your stuff.
Y'all better get out of here,
across that line right there. Yeah. So they had a whole bunch of back in the Iraq days, when Bush was in office, they had a whole bunch of white people, that was say that they was using themselves as human shields, trying to prevent war from happening. As soon as that war broke out, you couldn't find them nowhere. You couldn't find them nowhere.
Right. I remember that too. I remember that.
They was coming out surrendering miles long.
Yeah.
And you remember the line that they used back in Vietnam, right? Bomb them into the Stone Age.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what their thought was. Not knowing that was their own undoing, since they were virtually in the Stone Age, as Dr. Francis Wilson said very clearly. They had a mindset and decided that if you got to kill every one of us, you are leaving here. And sure enough, you see them pushing the Hueys off the aircraft carriers, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, that fear is a real thing. I had to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. I had to become comfortable with that uncomfortable feeling.
Mm-hmm.
We all do, whether you're running counter-racism science experiments or not. Once you begin to work against the system, you got to become comfortable with that uncomfortable feeling. So, I mean, back to Salt's question, how do you get non-white people to become comfortable with that? I mean, that wasn't the question, but essentially, that's what you're trying to do. How do you get them to become comfortable with being uncomfortable? And you're going to have a fight on your hands. Non-white people will lash out.
That kind of reminds me. I'm sorry if I cut you off. I'll stop.
No, not at all. I was just going to make a recount.
Yeah, I was just saying it reminds me of that in the Matrix, the white guy who didn't want to go back in the Matrix. I mean, who wanted to go back in the Matrix, and his reaction. That's what it reminds me of. Every time I see that part, I just think about black people for some reason and their mindset, how we've been conditioned. And a lot of us, we don't want to see the world for what it really is. I mean, just like when Neo seen the world for what it really was, it was horrible. And that's an analogy I usually give other non-white people about how the world is. Like, that's how the world is. It's really messed up. There's nothing beautiful about that. Nothing to be happy or joyful about neither. But yeah, I expect that.
I mean,
a lot of non-white people like that guy. Yeah, continue.
Yeah, even his response was, "Can I go back?" You know, even he wanted to go back. You know, Moses
and he
asked
wanted
him
them to erase his memory. He wanted them to erase his memory. He's like, make sure you put me with all the finest women, and I want to be eating a steak every day. And
Cypher.
Yeah,
that was Cypher. Yeah.
Yeah, he reminded me of black people too when I saw that.
See, I look at it like
one thing
this.
I noticed. One thing I noticed when running.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that it brought to mind as you were speaking. There was a time, because I heard Neil Fuller said, again, to have an intelligent fear, and that he wasn't as jumpy anymore. And that if one doesn't understand any kind of codification or confrontation of that fear, they can actually endanger themselves. I happened to be in the back of the trailer getting unloaded, and there was multiple stops, and they took off something that wasn't theirs. I saw them with it. It was on the dock, and they proceeded to maneuver around to get it someplace in the warehouse. It wasn't supposed to come to them. They knew it wasn't supposed to come to them. I knew that they knew it wasn't supposed to come to them. But they essentially gangstered it. They grabbed it and took it. It was on the forklift, and it was somewhere in the office. So they came back, and I said, well, it was sitting right here on the dock, that they were pulling one out to get to the thing behind it. So they pulled it out and took it off to send it off, so I found myself, I said, well, see, this goes here and that goes there, and the one that you had on the dock is supposed to go with this. I was showing them the things. Initially it was one or two. I found myself surrounded. I don't know if anyone's understand or seen the dimensions inside a semi-trailer, like a container. I found myself surrounded by 4 white people. Now, I, could have been, if I didn't know what was going on, I could have, let's say pre-code, would have reacted in a whole different way and would have endangered myself and likely gotten hurt, as far as that goes. But having to know the code and having to know what it is, it's like, oh, okay, you've gotten yourself surrounded. You know what I mean? Back out, get away from the danger, and so forth like that. It's not my product, and if anything is covered and coded, and it's on paper, actually, what they did, But if one is not prepared for that or any other situation, they can be in danger really fast and really quick. I think that's why Fuller was saying in the case of comply, comply, comply. Don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee. In the case of a law enforcement. But that could be, like I said, in any event, at work, on the bus, while you getting gas in the car, all those kind of things. If one is not prepared in any kind of way, that's, like I said, they are subject to further victimization to the nth degree. And I'm just, again, recalling that, it's good to be, and thank you all. Thank you for this space. It's not burning up battery time. But, at the same time, to realize that is so much to be uncomfortable. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable. why I'm like I'm a swivel all the time. I'm looking, I have to, because of the situation that I'm in. And as soon as I realize that, then the bad things can happen. At least I'd rather see it coming than not, to be smacked upside the head and I didn't see nobody walking up on me. Why am I going to let them walk up on me? That's all.
What I had discovered about myself was that I had already become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Even before counter racism, I had become comfortable with being subject to racism, white supremacy.
Wow.
And that entire experience was uncomfortable. And when I came to that realization, I said, hey, wait a minute, I can do it again. I can become comfortable practicing counter racism. But how do you get other non-white people to that realization? To Salt's question, hey, I don't have the answer to that.
That would definitely be the key to bringing that effective number on. If we could figure that out.
Hey, I say the white people gonna get them to that realization. White people, they gonna start squeezing, and people gonna say, hey, wait a minute. They might not say this has been wrong all along, but they gonna say, hey, something is wrong right now. And they already starting to squeeze people. The squeeze is on right now. And it's going to get tighter and tighter. So
that kind of goes to what I mentioned about my mantra. I'm sorry. To that mantra that I said, through suffering I gain consciousness. Because I've realized that the more you suffer, the more like I heard Mr. Fuller say, pain is for a purpose, to make you aware that something's happening that shouldn't be happening. And the more you get pain, the more it's going to make you more conscious of what it is why it's happening, and it's going to make you want to know why it's happening. The more you suffer,
it's going to want to make you. It's going to
stop to.
Yeah, it's going to make you want to stop it from happening. And
exactly.
That's when people like us, who are doing experiments right now, regardless as to whether they're structured or not, regardless as to whether it's based on the scientific method or trial and error, it doesn't matter. But the experience that we are engaged in right now is going to help them. Some of them, anyway.
See, I suspect that if there wasn't so many distractions, we probably collectively would have reached that conclusion already. But there's the white supremacists are actively making sure that it's almost like the pain is there, but as long as you keep getting that codeine or that heroin and fentanyl or whatever they're giving you to numb the pain, it's like you're okay. Like it seems to me like there's just so many distractions. I mean, I get caught up in them included, like video games. I'm still stuck on video games and certain movies and television programs that I just binge watch and all kinds of stuff. So
well, if there's any additional interest, then I'll schedule another meeting and a Zoom meeting this time, and we can kind of walk through, putting together a couple of experiments and help each other in our participation in that meeting to put together a couple of experiments. If you guys have
I would love
any
that.
interest in
I
doing
really enjoy that, Robert.
Me
enjoy
too.
That.
I vote yes.
Okay, I'll get something scheduled up and get it on the calendar, and I'll communicate. You guys let me know what's a good time and date, and I'll communicate that out to everyone on Twitter, that may be interested. And all of these will also be on the Counter Racism web calendar on the website. There's a link at the bottom of every page. It says web calendar, and you can find them there as well. So,
is Salt still with us?
Salt, are you there?
Is Salt there?
I'm not sure. I'm not sitting in the front of the computer anymore.
Yeah,
I'm lounging on the.
She may have to go because she got to get up early in the morning. And she may have to go because she got to get up early in the morning. So I don't know. She's left. She may have.
Yeah. But I guess again to her point, because it is, like I said, I'm a little bit less confused. For me, it is painful when black people are being mistreated. It's especially painful since, with the Fifth Amendment, you have the right to remain silent, and please exercise that right. It's like, well, what did I do? And y'all shouldn't be doing, and that, it's like it like I said, it's flailing, and it's like, and it's especially painful to watch. One, because I guess I'm seeing myself.
Oh yeah.
And then two, I'm seeing harm. I'm saying, I'm saying harm to another black person, and that is especially painful. Even myself, I say, well, I'll be okay. You know what I mean? But yeah, when a female lady, or even a grandmother is subjected to mistreatment based upon color, oh my God. Makes you want to fume and cry at the same time. But it's Dr. I just say, as Dr. Wilson said, that there will be casualties until it gets to that critical mass, as it was said. But, yeah, I guess that's the thing, at least for me, like she would say often, if I could wave a magic wand, So, but, yeah, it's...
when I lived in the D.C. area, I used to. When I lived in the D.C. area, I used to attend the Wilson Institutes all the time, and I mean, there would be people in the audience that would stand up, black people, and try to argue with Dr. Wilson and with Mr. Fuller when he was speaking. He would speak at, I can't remember if it was one or two, but definitely one, at least one Wilson Institute meetings a year. But yeah, now they came there presumably willingly. Otherwise, why were they there? But when they started talking, either Dr. Wilson or Mr. Fuller started talking and was going on through their lecture and whatnot, people would, periodically, it wasn't frequent, but people would get up and, try to argue. I saw this one particular time when Mr. Fuller said something about people are not humans, before he could even take people through the logic of why, it's just, Fuller was saying that they're just people, they're not humans. And this one lady, black female, stood up in the back and let him have it. You know, I am a human. Blah, 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 blah.
Wow.
I was like, oh, man, here we go. You know, here we go,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
It was lively at times. You know.
Mm.
Well, if there's nothing else, I think, how long have we don't want to take up your guys' night? I think we've been on for about a couple of hours, maybe.
Yeah, I got 2 hours,
about
17
2 and a
minutes
half.
and 15 seconds.
2.5 hours? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you guys send me some dates and times on Twitter, and we'll get something nailed down, and I'll schedule another meeting. But I hope
certainly this has been
I'm looking forward
by the way.
Okay, and
this
I'm going
really
to put this
wonderful. I love the
discussion.
question. This was really having fun. It's all about Great
Right.
America and all that, going swimming or whatever. It's, you know, that's kind of cute too. But you know, this is real fun, and I thank you all.
I'm going to put this. Oh, no problem. I'm going to put this discussion in rotation on the Counter Racism Radio.
Oh, by the way, I heard that one that I don't know. I guess I'll have to go to Danny or Danny Queen, perhaps. I'm not sure. But there was one where it's a 4-hour Sabrina Johnson, 2006, where a lot of very much, on the Counter Racism Radio. Sometimes I'll listen just for that, but you know, all of it's great. So, so that's one of those real spectacular highlights that you know, because they're exchanging views, you know, and it's logic, and you know, it's we say it don't get no better than that. So,
yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to end the call now, and you guys have a good evening.
All right, sir.
Good night, sir.
Same to you.
You too, sir. You too. Good night.
Blessings.